Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we're going to be discussing how you can rent a food truck. Many people have dreamt of starting a food truck business, but they couldn't afford it because they either didn't have all the money to dish out, because we know that these food trucks can cost anywhere between 30 to 50K and sometimes even more. Or they didn't have the credit to do so, because a lot of people, if they can't dish out all that money, revert to credit. And sometimes if you don't have sufficient business credit or good personal credit, then you're pretty much out of luck. So a lot of chefs have tried to get into the rental space, and a lot of people don't know about this. But the amazing thing about this is that you can actually take advantage now by making money and making bank with renting food trucks, specifically for events or just to get your feet wet, so that you can know what it's like to actually have a food truck business. So although there's not many companies out there that like to rent food trucks, because number one, it's a huge investment, and two, it's just a lot of money to dish out for other companies. But even though we don't have a lot of companies out there that actually rent the food trucks for events, Dreams Gone Mobile has actually partnered with another company where we can actually offer you food truck rentals. So let's talk about this shmoney, and I'm always going to talk about shmoney because I want you all to win. But events is going to be your best friend. And what I mean by that is going to parties, going to weddings, looks like food truck festivals, food truck rallies, fairs, all kinds of pop-up shops, vendor shops. Those are the type of events you want to be a part of. If there's any grand openings, there's people who love to have food trucks a part of that community. And we also have like neighborhood community food truck rallies as well, where you're able to go into a neighborhood with a couple of other food truck vendors who can sell their food. So what I want you to do is understand that when you're going into the food truck rental space, you do want to maximize your investment as much as possible. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, it costs you $1,500 to rent a food truck for the weekend, but this event has over 1,000 people for the weekend or per day. This is a great investment for you, because at the end of the day, even though you're investing in something, the end result is going to be 10 times better than what it looks like in the future. So what I mean by that, for example, is I have a client who literally had no food truck. She actually was trying to get her food truck built, but of course it wasn't built in time because she had just gotten started, and she heard about an event that was happening in Louisiana. Now, mind you, she's based out of Florida and she has no food truck. So what she did was she went to Louisiana with the U-Haul, paid $500 just to get her foot in the door as a vendor, and sold out within 3 days. After that, she made 15K. So imagine that. I have another food truck owner who has 3 food truck locations, where he actually had a food truck that was inspected by us and also inspected by the state, where we were able to get him completely licensed right before the Tampa Taco Fest here in Florida. So what he ended up doing was paying for the food truck vendor spot there, which is typically about $1,000, and it's one day. But in 4 hours, he sold out and made 9K. So just imagine what the end result would be. So let's talk about how you can get started with renting a food truck. The first thing you want to do is find a company that can actually offer food truck rentals, or luckily for you guys, you have me. Second thing you want to do is figure out what your budget is. So for example, if you know that you have a cap of $1,000 or $200 a day or whatever the case is, you want to make sure that it makes the most sense. And by doing that, if you're going to be getting into events, you want to know how much is it going to be for a vendor's fee when you get into that event, how much is it going to cost you to rent the actual food truck, and what the volume of people is going to look like for that event, and then see if that makes sense for you. Typically, when you're doing an event, usually most food trucks, if not all, hike their price up just a little bit because they know that it's part of the event and they want to take advantage as much as they can. With our partner company, we offer daily rentals as well as weekend rentals, so it really just depends on the event and what you're trying to get involved in. Other companies may do them a little differently, but all the rates vary. And just like daily rentals and weekend rentals are for like Airbnbs and vehicles, Like if you're trying to rent a car, the more days that you rent, the cheaper it is. Or if it's in a weekly rate, it's usually cheaper than a weekend rate. So just keep those things in mind when you're trying to rent a food truck. Then once you've established your budget, now you want to get into the terms and conditions. What are the rules? What are you getting into? What are you allowed to do? What are you not allowed to do? That's something that you want to take into consideration, because God forbid something were to happen, and if you don't have insurance, or if you were to damage something that you were doing once you were working on something like a fryer, something catches on fire, whatever the hazard is, whatever damage you do, you want to make sure you understand the terms and conditions and what you're liable for when something were to occur like that. Since with us and the partner company that we work with is based out of Florida, that does not mean you're not allowed to go to any other state. Now keep in mind, typically for permanent food truck licensing, there are rules and regulations involved for each state and how things should be built. However, because we're based out of Florida, we do all the codes and inspections here in Florida, and it'll be licensed in Florida. But keep in mind that when you're going out of state, you can do a temporary vendor's permit. And the beautiful thing about it is that we can actually help you with that process in case you try to get into an event that's out of state. But if you plan to go through another company that's more locally and easier for you to access, but you still want to get assistance with the licensing, you always have Dreams Gone Mobile that can assist you with the out-of-state temporary vendor's permit. However, if you decide to do it yourself, here's a couple things you got to keep in mind. The first thing you want to do once you go to apply for those things, like your temporary vendor's permit or the temporary vendor's license, is number one, contact the event coordinator that's hosting the event. The reason why I say this is because 9 times out of 10, the event coordinator really knows everything that you already need, but sometimes they don't. So it's kind of like a hit or miss. Then you want to contact the Department of Health to verify the things that you need, the requirements, what's the fee, and all those things, because they have their fee and the event coordinators have their fee. Sometimes there are event coordinators that host an event, cover and apply for everything, and include the license fee or the temporary vendor's permit for you, so you have nothing to worry about. But then there's cases where you just have to do it yourself. And in that situation, you want to make sure you double check on everything with the requirements. And I'm going to say that over and over again because it's important to make sure that you don't get stopped or shut down in the middle of an event, because typically a lot of inspectors do visit those events to make sure you're properly licensed and covered for the event. So these are a couple reasons why it's such a great opportunity for you to start renting a food truck, because if you can't afford it, you can actually start doing something now and taking advantage now with your business. Whether you're doing any type of catering or anything like that, you want to do events and get more exposure. You can do that with renting a food truck, being a part of events, being a part of the community. And little by little, you're slowly getting an investment done by adding all the things that you earn and putting that towards your future asset, which is your future food truck, or whether that be a restaurant. Whatever the case is, the goal is to start making money now, so in the future you have a better option and opportunity to build your business even more. So if you're looking to rent a food truck through our partner company and have a couple of questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and book a call. We're here for you with whatever you need.